Human reproduction. As you are aware, humans are sexually reproducing and the reproductive events in humans include formation of gametes, gametogenesis, that is sperm in male and ovum in female, transfer of sperm into the female genital tract, insemination and fusion of male and female gametes, fertilization leading to formation of zygote. This is followed by the formation and development of blastocyst and its attachment to the uterine wall, implantation, embryonic development, gestation and delivery of the baby, parturition. You have learned that these reproductive events occur after puberty. There are remarkable differences between reproductive events in the male and in the female. For example, sperm formation continues event in old men, but formation of ovum is in women around the age of 50 years. Let us examine the male and female reproductive system in human. The male reproductive system is located in the pelvis region. It includes a pair of testes along with the hereditary duct, glands and external genitalia. The testes are situated outside the abdominal cavity within a pouch called scrotum. The scrotum helps in maintaining the low temperature of the testes to 2.5 degrees centigrade, lower than the normal internal body temperature, necessary for spermatogenesis. In adults, each testis is oval in shape. In adults, with a length of about 4 to 5 cm and a width of about 2 to 3 cm. The testis is covered by a dense covering. Each testis has about 250 compartments called testicular lobules. Each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules in which sperm are produced. Each seminiferous tubule is lined on its inside by two types of cells called male germ cell, spermatogonia, and Sertoli cell. The male germ cell undergo meiotic division, finally leading to sperm formation, while Sertoli cell provide nutrition to the germ cell. The region outside the seminiferous tubules called interstitial spaces contain small blood vessel and interstitial cell or Leydig cell. Leydig cell synthesizes and secretes testicular hormones called androgen. Other immunologically competent cells are also present. The male sex hereditary duct include red testes, vas efferentia, epididymis, and vas deferens. The seminiferous tubules of the testes open into the vasa efferentia through the testes. The vasa efferentia leaves the testes and open into the epididymis located along the posterior surface of each testis. The epididymis lead to vas deferens that ascend to the abdomen and loop over the urinary bladder. It receives a duct from seminal vesicle and open into urethra as the ejaculatory duct. This duct store and transport the sperm from the testes to the outside through urethra. The urethra originates from the urinary bladder and extends through the penis to its external opening called urethral meatus. The penis is the male external genitalia. It is made up of special tissue that helps in erection of the penis to facilitate insemination. The enlarged end of penis called the glans penis is covered by a loose fold of skin called foreskin. The male accessory glands include paired seminal vesicle, a prostate, and paired bulbourethral glands. Secretion of these glands constitute the seminal plasma, which is rich in fructose, calcium, and certain enzymes. The secretion of bulbourethral glands also helps in lubrication of the penis. The female reproductive system. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries along with a pair of oviduct, uterus, cervix, vagina, and the external genitalia located in the pelvic region. The part of the system along with a pair of mammary glands are integrated structurally and functionally to support the process of ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth, and child care. Ovaries are the primary female sex organ that produce the female gametes, ovum, and several steroid hormone ovarian hormones. The ovaries are located on each side of the lower abdomen. Each ovary is about 2 to 4 cm in length and is connected to the pelvic wall and uterus by ligament. Each ovary is covered by a thin epithelium which includes the ovarian stroma. The stroma is divided into two zones, a peripheral cortex and an inner medulla. The oviduct, fallopian tube, uterus, and vagina constitute the female accessory duct. Each fallopian tube is about 10 to 12 cm long and extended from the periphery of each ovary to the uterus. The part closer to the ovary is the funnel-shaped infundibulum. The edge of the infundibulum possesses finger-like projection called fimbria, which helps in collection of ovum after ovulation. The infundibulum leads to a wider part of the oviduct called ampulla. The last part of the oviduct, isthmus, has a narrow lumen and it joins the uterus. The uterus is single and it is also called womb. The shape of the uterus is like an inverted pear. It is supported by ligament attached to the pelvic wall. The uterus opens into vagina through a narrow cervix. The cavity of the cervix is called cervical canal, which along with vagina form the birth canal. The wall of the uterus has 3 layers of tissues. The external thin membranous perimetrium, middle thick layer of smooth muscle myometrium, and inner granular layer called endometrium that lines the uterine cavity. The endometrium undergoes cyclical change during menstrual cycle, while the myometrium exhibits strong contraction during delivery of the baby. The female external genitalia include mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen, and clitoris. Mons pubis is a cushion of fatty tissue covered by skin and pubic hair. The labia major are fleshy fold of tissue which extend down from the mons pubis and surround the vaginal opening. The labia minora are pair fold of tissue under the labia majora. The opening of the vagina is often covered partially by a membrane called hymen. The clitoris is a tiny finger-like structure which lies at the upper junction of the two labia minor above the urethral opening. The hymen is often torn during first coitus intercourse. However, it can also be broken by a sudden fall or jolt, insertion of vaginal tampon, cavity activity, participation in some sports like horseback riding, cycling, etc. In some women, the hymen persists even after coitus. In fact, the presence or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity or sexual experience. A functional mammary gland is characteristic of all female mammals. The mammary gland are pair structures breast that contain glandular tissue and variable amounts of fat. The glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes containing cluster of cells called alveoli. The cell of alveoli secretes milk which is stored in the cavity lumen or alveoli. The alveoli open into mammary tubules. The tubules of each lobe join to form mammary duct. Several mammary ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla which is connected to the lactiferous duct through which milk is sucked out. Gametogenesis. The primary sex organ, the testes in the male and ovaries in the female, produce gametes, that is sperm and ovum respectively, by the process called gametogenesis. In testes, the immature male germs called cells, spermatogonia, produce sperm by spermatogenesis that begins at the puberty. The spermatogonia, single spermatogonium, present on the inside wall of the seminiferous tubule, multiply by meiotic division and increase in number. Each spermatogonium is diploid and contains 46 chromosomes. Some of the spermatogonia, called primary spermatocytes, periodically undergo meiosis. The primary spermatocyte completes the first meiotic division, reproduction division, leading to formation of two equal haploid cells called secondary spermatocytes, which have only 26 chromosomes each. The secondary spermatocytes undergo the second meiotic division to produce 4 equal haploid spermatids. What would be the number of chromosomes in spermatids? The spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa by process called spermatogenesis. After spermatogenesis, sperm had become embedded in the Sertoli cell. and are finally released from the seminiferous tubule by the process called spermiation. The spermatogenesis starts at the age of puberty due to significant increase in the secretion of gonadotropin-releasing hormone (GnRH). If you recall, a hypothalamic hormone, the increased level of GnRH then acts at the anterior pituitary gland and stimulates secretion of two gonadotropin luteinizing hormone LH and follicle stimulating hormone FSH. LH acts at the Leydig cell and stimulates synthesis and secretion of androgen. Androgen in turn stimulates the process of spermatogenesis, and FSH acts on the Sertoli cell and stimulates secretion of some factor which helps in the process of spermatogenesis. Let us examine the structure of sperm. It is a microscopic structure composed of head, neck, a middle piece and a tail. Plasma membrane envelopes the whole body of the sperm. The sperm head contains an elongated haploid nucleus, an anterior portion of which is covered by a cap-like structure, acrosome. The acrosome is filled with enzyme that helps fertilization of the ovum. The middle piece possesses numerous mitochondria which produce energy for the movement of tail that facilitate sperm motility essential for fertilization. The human male ejaculates about 200 to 300 million sperm during a coitus, of which for normal fertility at least 60% sperm must have normal shape and size, and at least 40% of them must show vigorous motility. Sperm released from the seminiferous tubules are transported by the accessory duct. Secretion of epididyme is vastly different. Seminal vesicle and prostate are essential for maturation and motility of sperm. The seminal plasma along with the sperm constitute the semen. The function of male sex accessory duct and gland are maintained by the testicular hormones androgen. The process of formation of a mature female gametes is called oogenesis, which is markedly different from spermatogenesis. Oogenesis is initiated during the embryonic development stage when a couple of million gametes, mother cell, oogonia, are formed within each fetal ovary. No more oogonia are formed and added after birth. These cells start division and enter into prophase 1 of the meiotic division and get temporarily arrested at the stage called primary oocyte. Each primary oocyte then gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cell and is called the primary follicle. A large number of these follicles degenerate during the phase from birth to puberty. Therefore, at puberty only 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. The primary follicle gets surrounded by more layer of granulosa cell and a new theca and are called secondary follicles. The secondary follicle soon transforms into a tertiary follicle which is characterized by a fluid-filled cavity called antrum. The theca layer is organized into an inner theca interna and an outer theca externa. It is important to draw your attention that it is at this stage that the primary oocyte within the tertiary follicle grows in size and complete its first meiotic division. It is an unequal division resulting in the formation of a large haploid secondary oocyte and a tiny first polar body. The secondary oocyte retain bulk of the nutrient-rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. Can you think of any advantage for this? Does the first polar body born out of the first meiotic division divide further or degenerates? At present, we are not very certain about this. The tertiary follicle further changes into the mature follicle or Graphian follicle. The secondary oocyte forms a new membrane called zona pellucida surrounding it. The Graphian follicle now ruptured to release the secondary oocyte ovum from the ovary by the process called ovulation. Can you identify major difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis? A diagrammatic representation of the spermatogenesis and oogenesis is given below. Menstrual cycle. The reproductive cycle in the female primates, example monkey, apes and human being, is called menstruation cycle. The first menstruation begins at puberty and is called main arch. In human, female menstruation is repeated at an average interval of about 28 to 29 days, and the cycle of events starting from one menstruation till next one is called the menstrual cycle. One ovum is released ovulation during the middle of each menstruation cycle. The major events of the menstruation cycle are shown in figure. The cycle starts with the menstrual phase, when menstrual flow occurs and it lasts for 3 to 5 days. The menstrual flow results due to breakdown of endometrial lining of the uterus and its blood vessels, which form liquid that come out through vagina. Menstruation only occurs if the released ovum is not fertilized. Lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy, however, it may also be caused due to some other underlying causes like stress, poor health, etc. The menstrual phase is followed by the follicular phase. During this phase, the primary follicle is in the ovary grow to become a fully matured Graphian follicle, and simultaneously the endometrium of the uterus regenerates through proliferation. These changes in the ovary and the uterus are induced by changes in the level of pituitary and ovarian hormone. The secretion of gonadotropin, LH and FSH increases gradually during the follicular phases and stimulates follicular development as well as secretion of estrogen by the growing follicle. Both LH and FSH attain a peak level in the middle of the cycle, about 14 days. Rapid secretion of LH leading to its maximum level during the mid-cycle called LH surge induced rupture of Graphian follicle and thereby release of ovum. Ovulation. The ovulatory phase is followed by the luteal phase, during which the remaining part of the Gaffin follicle transport as the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum secretes large amount of progesterone, which is essential for maintenance of the endometrium. Such an endometrium is necessary for implantation of the fertilized ovum and other events of pregnancy. During pregnancy, all events of the menstrual cycle stop and there is no menstruation. In the absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates. This causes disintegration of the endometrium, leading to menstruation, marking a new cycle. In human beings, menstrual cycle ceases around 50 years of age, that is termed as menopause. Cyclic menstruation is an indicator of normal reproductive phase and extends between menarche and menopause. Fertilization and implantation. During copulation coitus, semen is released by the penis into the vagina. Insemination. The motile sperm swim rapidly, pass through the cervix, entered into uterus and finally reach the ampulla region of the fallopian tube. The ovum released by the ovary is also transported to the ampullary region where fertilization takes place. Fertilization can only occur if the ovum and sperm are transported simultaneously to the ampullary region. This is the reason why not all copulation leads to fertilization and pregnancy. The process of fusion of a sperm with an ovum is called fertilization. During fertilization, a sperm comes in contact with zona pellucida layer over the ovum and induce changes in the membrane that blocks the entry of additional sperm. Thus, it ensures that only one sperm can fertilize an ovum. The secretion of the acrosome helps the sperm enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. This induces the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte. The second meiotic division is also unequal and results in the formation of a second polar body and a haploid ovum. Oocyte. Soon the haploid nucleus of the sperm and that of the ovum fuse together to form a diploid zygote. How many chromosomes will be there in the zygote? One has to remember that the sex of the baby has been decided at this stage itself. Let us see how. As you know, the chromosome pattern in the human female is XX and that in the male is XY. Therefore, all the haploid gametes ova produced by the female have the sex chromosome X, whereas in the male gamete sperm, the sex chromosome could be either X or Y. Hence, 50% of sperm carry X chromosome, while the other 50% carry the Y. After fusion of the male and female gametes, the zygote would carry either XX or XY depending on whether the sperm carry X or Y fertilize the ovum. The zygote carrying XX would develop into a female baby and XY would form a male. We will learn more about the chromosomal pattern in chapter 5. That is why scientifically it is correct to say that the sex of the baby is determined by father and not by mother. The meiotic division starts as the zygote moves through the isthmus of the oviduct called cleavage towards the uterus and forms 2, 4, 8, 16 daughter cell called blastomere. The embryo with 8 to 16 blastomere is called a morula. The morula continue to divide and transform into blastocyst as it moves further into the uterus. The blastomere in the blastocyst are arranged into an outer layer called trophoblast and an inner group of cells attached to trophoblast called the inner cell mass. The trophoblast layer then get attached to the endometrium and the inner cell mass get differentiated as the embryo. After attachment, the uterine cell divide rapidly and cover the blastocyst. As a result, blastocyst become embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. This is called implantation and it leads to pregnancy. Pregnancy and embryonic development. After implantation, finger-like projection appears on the trophoblast called chorionic villi, which are surrounded by the uterine tissue and maternal blood. The chorionic villi and uterine tissue become interdigitated with each other and jointly forms a structural and functional unit between developing embryo, fetus and maternal body called placenta. The placenta facilitates the supply of oxygen, nutrient to the embryo and also removal of carbon dioxide and excretory or waste materials produced by the embryo. The placenta is connected to the embryo through an umbilical cord which helps in the transport of substance to and from the embryo. Placenta also acts as an endocrine tissue and produce several hormones like human chorionic gonadotropin HCG, human placental lactogen HPL, estrogen, progesterone, etc. In the later phase of the pregnancy, a hormone called relaxin is also secreted by the ovary. Let us remember that HCG, HPL and relaxin are produced in the women only during pregnancy. In addition, during pregnancy, the level of other hormones like estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, etc. are increased several fold in the maternal blood. Increased production of these hormones is essential for supporting the fetal growth, metabolic changes in the mother and maintenance of the pregnancy. Immediately after implantation, the inner cell mass embryo differentiates into an outer layer called ectoderm and an inner layer called endoderm. A mesoderm soon appears between the ectoderm and the endoderm. These three layers give rise to the all tissues organ in adults. It needs to be mentioned here that the inner cell mass contains certain cells called stem cell which have the potency to give rise to all tissues and organs. What are the major features of embryonic development at the various months of pregnancy? The human pregnancy lasts 9 months. Do you know for how many months pregnancy lasts in dogs, elephants, cats? Find out. In human being, after 1 month of pregnancy, the embryo's heart is formed. The first sign of growing fetus may be noticed by listening to the heart sound carefully through the stethoscope. By the end of the second month of pregnancy, the fetus develops limbs and digits. By the end of 12 weeks, first trimester, most of the major organ systems are formed. For example, limbs and external genitalia organ are well developed. The first movement of the fetus and appearance of hair on the head are usually observed during 5th month. By the end of about 24 weeks, end of second trimester, the body is covered with fine hair, eyelid separate, and eyelashes are formed. By the end of 9 months of pregnancy, the fetus is fully developed and is ready for delivery. Perturbation and Lactation. The average duration of human pregnancy is about 9 months, which is called gestation period. Vigorous contraction of uterus at the end of pregnancy causes expulsion or delivery of the fetus. This process of delivery of the fetus or childbirth is called parturition. Parturition is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. The signal for the parturition originates from the fully developed fetus and the placenta, which induce mild uterine contraction called fetal ejection reflux. This triggered release of oxytocin from the maternal pituitary. Oxytocin acts on the uterine muscle and causes stronger uterine contraction, which in turn stimulates further secretion of oxytocin. The stimulatory reflex between the uterine contraction and oxytocin secretion continues, resulting in stronger and stronger contraction. These lead to expulsion of the baby out of the uterus through the birth canal. Parturition. Soon after the infant is delivered, the placenta is also expelled out of the uterus. What do you think the doctor injects to induce delivery? The mammary gland of the female undergo differentiation during pregnancy and start producing milk towards the end of the pregnancy by a process called lactation. This helps the mother in feeding the newborn. The milk produced during the initial few days of lactation is called colostrum, which contain several antibodies absolutely essential to develop resistance for the newborn babies. Breastfeeding during the initial period of infant growth is recommended by doctors for bringing up a healthy baby.